Welcome to the Just Elite podcast. With me today is Dave Levey in his arm sling. Dave, before I start, I just have to tell the listeners what happened. This is actually the second time that we're doing this interview. We did it on Friday, and unfortunately, technology disappointed me and it did not record. So this is now the second time. So thank you for taking the time and redoing this so our listeners and the YouTubers can have a look at it. Dave, tell us, your arm is in a sling, games is around the corner. What happened?
So where am I now? Monday. So last week, I think 3 weeks ago, Friday, I was busy had restarted training after the semifinals and for the individuals. And then we were training obviously for the games, the finals for the men, 40 to 45, obviously doing prep work for that. I needed to get some strongman work in, and I was doing some tire flips and sandbag carries. And I think on my last rep of the tire flips, just given the time domain, basically as I lifted, I just heard bah, and felt obviously in my front of my sort of forearm, like a snapping sort of moving sensation. Anyway, so immediately I thought, I tore my biceps, and that's actually is what happened. I tore my distal biceps. So yeah, that's why I'm in a sling. I had surgery just the other day. Last week, Monday, exactly a week ago, I had surgery. And I'm in a splint now. So it's like just set past 90 degrees, half cast splint. It's got to be like this for like 2.5 weeks or so. And then I go to 30 degrees. So yeah, that's why I'm in a sling.
But that obviously means that your season is over. I mean, this is not going to heal within the next 4 weeks to make it to Madison.
No. As it happened, I thought, as it happened, I was like, oh, there goes my game season. And then actually the next day, I was in a sling for about 24 hours. I'd chatted to my sports doc, Conrad, and he was going to evaluate me on actually the next day and then send me for ultrasound on the Monday. But already like 24 hours later, it felt quite a lot better. So I thought, oh, maybe it was just a smaller grade tear and I can possibly get away with continuing to train and then just bring the arm back over the 2 or 3 weeks before the event. But yeah, the ultrasound showed it was a very substantial tear. And when I saw the orthopedic surgeon, Dr. Stunder, he confirmed that it was really bad, and he just said no, surgery straight away. So just at a quick glance. And
was it completely off? I mean, because you posted a video, a photo on social media, a very graphic video, and I think actually on one of the posts, Instagram censored it. So if you're very squeamish, you shouldn't actually look at that. But he's holding the tendon. I think it's the tendon with a tweezer. What is it? The tendon, and was it completely off?
Yeah. So I mean, I actually haven't spoken to him on the exact. Well, he did say it was off. So yeah, I think that's just basically what they went and retrieved. So that's the biceps tendon. So the biceps tendons come down, inserts on the radial head, and then to the medial side, it's got like this aponeurosis, like a fascial type connection also on the ulna. So what actually happened, that was still intact, the one side, but the whole distal biceps tendon was off. And so the biceps didn't actually retract fully because it was still held on by the inner medial fibers that went via the aponeurosis. So it looked a bit weird, and the mechanics looked a bit weird. And there was like a weird tension on that aponeurosis that I felt immediately. And that's because the whole biceps tendon was hanging off that, and it wasn't off the main tendon. So yeah, he just said, listen, even if I was not even doing sport, he would need to operate. And then he said if I was a really old man, so older than I am, that he'd have to then he could possibly leave it,
Well, luckily for you, you obviously had a very good doctor. Looking time wise, obviously it's so sad and disheartening, and I can believe it was really bitter pill to swallow for you, especially so close to the games and having such a great season and missing out last year because of COVID, that you won't be able to make it to the games this year. But tell us about the recovery time. What are you looking at before you can actually start putting weight on the arm again, started training it. I know you posted a video of you doing single arm rows on your left side. So obviously you're still training the other side. So what does the time frame look like before you can actually go back to normal training?
So yeah, normal training using this side, I think at about 3 or 3.5 months, and that'll obviously be really scaled and obviously more specific rehab type work. I think I haven't got the full rehab plan yet, but basically it's in a splint for a month. I think it's just past 90 degrees and then at 30 degrees for about a month, 2 weeks. And then what I've seen in research, I've actually got to look into it a little bit more and chat to him, is that they limit you to 1 kg on that hand for, I think, the next month or so. And then obviously there will be specific rehab stuff. So I'm doing some specific rehab stuff to maintain the shoulder a bit, things that don't engage the elbow joint and the biceps tendon at all. I can use the wrist. I've just got to be careful I don't obviously flex too hard, but I can squeeze and extend and move my fingers in different directions and that. So I'm just trying to maintain that. And then at the moment, and then I don't exactly know, from about 2 months to about 3.5 months, I presume is sorry.
Not a problem.
How do I decline this? There we go. We're back. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and I don't know the specifics then. From 3.5 months, around 2 to 3.5 months. So we'll have to wait and see. We need to research a little bit more. But yeah, by 6 months competing, you said.
That's good. So basically, you will be back to your full potential and full strength and capabilities by the Open 2022. Is that what you're working towards now? Yes,
that's the goal. So yeah, everything goes to plan, God willing, then yeah, that's the goal, to get to back then. The timing's not too bad. I mean, it's bad timing in that I can't go to the games, but other than that, it's good timing in that it gives me enough time for the next season. So obviously if it happened in December or January, that'll be the start of the next season, or just before the start, kind of the pre-season, which wouldn't be so great. So it's yeah, the timing is bad but good.
No, so, definitely. Yeah. Now, Dave, you've been in the sport for many years. Your first time at the games as an individual was in 2012. You were one of our very first, and I say our, South Africa's very first individuals to go to the games. And there's this, I spoke about it last time as well, there's this very cool image of you between Jason Kalipa and Rich Froning at the start of one of the events. But before I get to that games, tell us about accepting a setback like this. It's obviously not your first injury, but I mean, you had most of your season. Last year was a mess. You were peaking. You made it as an individual to the semifinals, which you did really well at. So tell us about how you work with your mind and accepting something. I mean, you don't really have a choice, but not being down in the dumps, getting back up on the side bulk as you did 2 days after your surgery, and just, putting your head forward and go, okay, cool. Let's just set our sights on the next one.
Yeah. So basically, as it happened, I was literally still on my knee, and my arm was paining. Pain had just subsided, and I basically just said a little prayer, and I knew that it was God's will. I kind of knew that, okay, well, this has happened. God doesn't want me to go to the games this year for whatever reason it might be. So I believe His will is sovereign, and things that happen in life, in Matthew 6, I think it says that, not one sparrow will fall to the ground without His consent. So, it's all part of His plan, and it's sad and it's disappointing, but, I accept what he has in store for me, and that helps me to move on, I think. Like if I sit and think about the games and what it's going to be like, it's disappointing, and it's like, oh, I wish I could be there. But I wouldn't say, I'm not depressed, I'm not down in the dumps, and I'm not sulking, and typical things I would have done many years ago when I had my ACL injury. On my right ACL, I had reconstructed, and a few years later I had my left. I think it was 19 and then like 21. And back then I remember being like, I was still a Christian, but I definitely didn't have a good understanding of God's sovereign will in my life. And even if I did, I think I was like a little kid throwing my toys out the cot. So I was, grumpy and irritable and frustrated and all of that. So you still get a bit frustrated. It's my right hand. So now when I'm trying to work in the kitchen and that, but not to the same, little irritations, but not, I was mostly not such a nice person to be around. But the one learns through experience, I think. I've had many injuries over the years, and some pretty bad ones. I think that helps, obviously from an experience point of view, knowing that I've got a big belief that the body heals itself naturally, or can heal itself naturally, which has a lot to do with your outlook, your mental outlook. So obviously my faith really helps that. It gives me a perspective from which to look, which enables me to then go through that healing process and accept it and move on. Because, I think if you don't accept it, you can't really move on. So, so that helps.
And Dave, you clearly a man of faith, and it's helped you through the years. And you said it's grown, and your understanding of faith and has grown over the years, and your experience as well. I want to add something to that. Being a rugby player in your early years, being a professional rugby player, there's a shelf life. You can only do it for that long at an elite level. You can play for clubs and so on afterwards, but does it help knowing that in CrossFit you can literally compete at the highest level until the age of 65 plus, knowing I'm going to sit out this year, but there's going to be another year, and it's going to be another year if your body can maintain the type of training that you guys do at your level.
It's great that CrossFit has got the age groups, and then they've just added another one this year, and maybe they'll go up to 70 and 75. So it's a great opportunity, and that's what CrossFit's about. It's about doing this for your health and fitness as you get older. It's not just about youngsters and individuals competing for performance. So obviously it gives those that are training and using this as part of their daily life the opportunity to compete in your later years. So that obviously is great. However, that's always a year missed. So there's two ways to look at it. Like it's a year missed. I would love to have gone in all the years. Would it be all the last year was the lockdown, but I think I would have just missed out. I got a penalty, and I think I would have missed by a point or two. But it does help, I suppose, a bit that there will be future opportunities. And rugby is a little bit more, you can play decently old, but once you get past a certain age, it's just whether you're good enough or not good enough. I think you do tend to move on with the sport. It's quite dangerous, a lot more dangerous than CrossFit.
Absolutely. There's a lot more sport, there's a lot different types of sport and activities that are a lot more, that's worse. I don't want to say that that's worse, but that's dangerous in comparison. And a lot of people that don't do the sport don't see it that way. Standing on your head and doing handstand push-ups is concerned, it's seen as really, really dangerous. But I think going down for a scrum or getting tackled is much worse. Dave, talk to us about, I don't want to say growing old, but you're one of our most experienced CrossFit athletes, going to the games in 2012, and you were already a master in now terms. You were already a master's athlete going to the games in 2012. You went in 2013 as well, and then a few years later again, and now we're in 2021. Talk to us about growing older and maturing in the sport, and where it started and where we are now in 2021.
So personally, in the sport as such as CrossFit, for me personally, I'm still improving all the time. which is great to see. My PBs are all getting better over time. Obviously, every single time you test them, they might not improve, but over time they are improving still. So I got a friend PB the other day just before the semis, and I wasn't really trying for it, and then I got a PB power snatch at the semis. So, and then if I repeat tests that I did in 2012 or 13, if I haven't done them, I'm way ahead of where I was. So I was quite young in terms of, I hadn't been in CrossFit for long. In 2012, before I went, I think only 6 months. So, I was a young CrossFitter per se, and obviously I've had a lot more years to mature as a CrossFit athlete. My Olympic lifting's much improved. My strength was decent coming in. I'd done a lot of strength training for rugby, and I enjoyed strength training. So I came in with a good strength base. But obviously not what I have now, with another, since 2011, doing squatting 3 times a week, every week, besides when you're injured, which hasn't been that much. Your front squats, for example, keeps climbing, and metabolically also improving all the time. So, but for the sport as a whole, CrossFit in itself, obviously you can just see the times and how they've improved since then. So for example, the 2007 workout that they repeated at the 2012 games. So Chris Spieler won that in 2007. They did the exact same workout in 2013, the exact same workout in 2013. And then everyone beat his time except one person. Yeah. Okay, it was Asia Barter. He just missed beating that time. He came last. Super tall, 6'5" athlete. Just a tough workout for him. But he was like basically on the winning, or close to the winning.
Just quickly tell us what the workout was. Sorry, before you continue, what was the workout?
So that was, if my memory serves me correct, 1 kilometer row. And then it was push press. I think it was 5 rounds of push presses. I think it was just 7 reps on, I think it was 52. So it wasn't that heavy. And 25 pull-ups.
Okay.
So it ended up being 125 pull-ups. I think that's correct. Something like that.
All right. Sorry, you can continue. I just wanted to know.
And so there was a massive improvement from 2007 to 2012. And then likewise now, if you just go look at times in 2012, and you get guys to hit those times nowadays, there's large improvements. So saw something the other day. What was it? I just saw something. I can't even remember the specifics. I didn't watch the event, but there's a regional ladder. They repeated, I think, the 2016 or 17 regional ladder. And then only, I think, 6 girls had finished it. And then at the semi-final event that they had, I think more ladies, just the semi-final event hit it. So it was the sport's growing and improving, has improved at a rapid rate and continues to improve, which is it's great, as it becomes more and more professional.
Yeah, I feel kind of it grew a lot from obviously where it started, and then it feels to me like the last 5 years, like the level of fitness and strength in the athletes have just multiplied to a speed that we haven't seen before. I think it's also maybe because a lot of people are doing it professionally now. It's their job, and they have the privilege of doing it, and it's just so competitive. And I think I have to say that I think Matt Fraser's also got a little bit to do with it. I think he pushed especially the men's side to a point where they would have still gone hard, but seeing what can be done at that level also pushed that side. What is I don't want to use the word secret, but how do you make sure and look after yourself that you can have a long career in this sport? Because it is very taxing on the body. The amount of training that yourself, you've been doing over the past, 12, 11 years that you've been doing this sport. How do you make sure that you have a long and successful career, that you can still do this and go to the games at the age of 65 plus?
Yeah, so CrossFit in itself is made to keep people healthy and fit. So that's what it's made for, the everyday person. It's made to keep you in great sort of physical shape. So and have high level of fitness, so that you derive great health benefits from that. So it's not like the movements we do are just naturally dangerous. Yes, they become dangerous if you do things that you shouldn't be doing for your level of fitness, I think. For example, you used handstand push-ups earlier. If you're doing handstand push-ups and your overhead shoulder stability and strength is not appropriate and you're bouncing off your head, you're obviously going to make your neck susceptible to injury. If likewise doing pull-ups, if you start doing kipping pull-ups way before your shoulder girdle can handle those dynamic forces, then you're going to be at risk. So I think if you stick to progressive training, you don't do too much too soon, and if you don't push the boundaries too much. So as an athlete, so like this, when I hurt my arm, it's quite interesting because I don't think I was training by pushing the boundaries too much. So some guys can be maybe a little greedy when you train, and I've done it in the past, say for example, maybe with improving deadlift too quickly. I think I hurt my back when I was younger. I'd done a lot of pistols in a week before in a comp, and I think a week later I tried to go too heavy too soon with deadlifts. I'd been traveling a lot, my pelvis out of alignment, and I hurt a facet joint, for example. So, there's definitely ways to train that are smart. It can be smarter when you're an athlete and you've been traveling, or you're starting out at the beginning of the season if you've had a bit of time off. But if you break certain rules, if you're just going to do a lot of deadlifting after a lot of heavy back squats, or a lot of crazy rebound box jumps, and you haven't done them in a while, you can tear your Achilles. So there's definitely things that you shouldn't do, and things that are dangerous to doing. And obviously when you program, you got to watch for that. But I think, as a normal person doing CrossFit, it's inherently safe. And then as you compete, following someone who's well experienced in programming is obviously important, and who's had time programming for athletes, CrossFit athletes in particular. I think it's important, so that you don't make those mistakes that can lead to injury over time. They can keep you going, keep you healthy. I've had a few injuries over time, acute ones. I think it's not too many. This one and a facet joint injury in my back. And then when I came back from that, I actually thought I wasn't training that hard, and I was doing some deadlifts and some I think 200s, but I wasn't even sprinting. But I was on 2 weeks of pure bed rest, and that was about 2 weeks after that. And when I turned, I tore my plantar fascia. As I turned, it went bah, and I thought someone actually shot me. So that was mostly my mistake. I shouldn't have. I maybe should have been taking a little bit easier on the running, just because obviously with 2 weeks of bed rest, your tensile strength of your tendons and ligaments reduce. So it obviously would have put me at more risk of hurting something like that. So but that's what I'd suggest: following someone who knows what they're doing in terms of programming, who's had the experience. And that's I've programmed for myself through all these years now. Josh Capozori helped me with some of my Olympic lifting in 2012 and 13. But other than that, basically, I've been programming for myself, and just being smart with the programming helps over time. I tend to do a bit more volume than most people, which you got to be careful with, because I enjoy it, so I kind of tend to train more. and I find that helps me to get to where I need to get to. But obviously you got to watch the volume quite a lot. I think CrossFit athletes can tend to overtrain in terms of volume, and you need to watch your immune system and watch that you don't overtrain and burn out.
Yeah, I've seen following a lot of athletes on social media, and especially those athletes that don't just post the highlight reel, but actually, they're quite open and honest about what they're going through and the struggles and so on. And there was a few athletes now that actually did post about having a burnout, doing too much too quickly, not taking an off season, not taking it easy. Do you find that, especially because the season has changed over the last couple of years since regionals was made obsolete? We had the sanctionals, then last year was just, there was one sanctional and then the rest got cancelled. And then this year, now it's called something completely different, but actually kind of the same. Having that chase the whole time, do you feel the pressure to keep on training, not taking a week or two off? Like you said, you were on bed rest, coming back too quickly. Do you feel that pressure and that need to continuously keep going to stay at form and compete with the best in the world?
Yes and no. I think back then when that happened, maybe yes. I was also running out of time because I think it was getting quite close to the open, so I kind of had to, it was like do or die time. I had to start moving. Maybe not quite as bad because I actually still made it that year, even after plantar fascia injury. I managed to make it back. But I think a lot of athletes do find themselves under that sort of pressure to keep improving. But I think just taking that rest, a bit of extra rest. So like generally speaking, after like the games, I would most probably take a week really chilled, just maybe do some fun movement, or if I go into the box, it's nothing to plan. And then the following week, start moving a little bit more, but also just fun, not really taking time, and also maybe getting, my battery is running a bit low there. I'll plug it in now. Just running a bit. Where am I at? I lost my train of thought with that lost battery.
After the games recovering.
Then that second week, then just taking more chilled and progressing back into training maybe after 3 weeks. I know some guys take a month easier, but it just depends on the season. I know it also made things a little bit more challenging with when they had the open in October again, because then obviously you've just come out from the games and then it's August, September, October. It's like 2 months and then the open's already there. But the best of the best, I think, they don't have to train as hard to make it through the open. That's the top guys. But the rest, even if you're on the cusp, I'm generally not a good open athlete. I get better as the games progress. So I need to actually train a little bit harder for the open. So I think a lot of athletes definitely most probably don't get enough rest, or at least not even pure rest, but just, modulate your training over the course of the season so that you're not peaking at the wrong time.
So Dave, obviously you're very experienced, and you obviously give this advice to your games athlete, which is Eva Thornton, that won the games for her age division. Who do you consult to give you advice? Because sometimes it's difficult to keep that mindset when you are at stake and you have to train and you have to think, what is best for me. So who do you consult? Who gives you advice regarding your season and what not to do?
So on pure programming level, I don't have anyone in particular that I go to. So obviously I try and take a step back and look at it possibly from an outsider, and try and think about it logically without, my emotions or whatever coming into play. Obviously coaching Eva and then also training with her as training partners not every day, but like on a Friday or Saturday, we train a bit more together. You know, it helps to bounce ideas off each other and chat about things. So that's definitely, and especially someone of her caliber and at her level, that makes it, it's good to have someone who I can bounce things off. And even sometimes she'll point things out to me if she thinks things are, maybe I'm doing a bit too much volume, or maybe I should get some recovery. Yeah. So it's great having her as a kind of like a coach in my corner, athlete coach. And then obviously, I spent a decent amount of time on recovery. I see Mark Anderson, he's my physio. He actually trains with us as well, yeah. And so he understands the sport that we do, and he's really helped me a lot over the last 5 years. I'm a biokineticist myself, so I know how to do, you know, that part of the rehab and, you know, mobility and that. But from a physio perspective, he's really helped me to treat my body and then to help bridge that gap between the time you see the physio and then the time you see, say, a biokineticist. And Doc Conrad van Haken helps me from the sports medicine side of things. So, you know, if I got injuries, I need to bounce something off them from an injury perspective. He was the Rugby World Cup doctor who won the last World Cup for the Springboks. So he's got tons of experience, and I've known him for a long time. So yeah, it's having a good team backing you. You know, my wife's a sports massage therapist, so she sometimes helps with a bit of sports massage here and there. And with you know, she'll also point out some things to me, as most good wives will. You know, if you know, maybe getting a bit grumpy because you're training a bit too hard, or you know, it's not balancing your time out correctly. So she helps with that aspect and helping to keep a balance. So yeah, it's a whole team, and then obviously there's a lot of support I get. I mean, besides the actual coaching, just from everyone at our box, you know, like get to go to the games. I mean, I don't have the cash off hand to just go, you know, so if I did, I wouldn't raise funds. But yeah, I mean, our CrossFit Go community is really, really great in helping to raise funds. Even to get to semis now, they raise funds for that. So
it was ridiculously the amount of money that they asked. Anyway, it's a different discussion.
Yeah, so yeah, that's basically the team that helps me, even though it's not particularly just exercise prescription wise.
Oh. Talk to me about recovery. You spoke about the physio that's at the box, obviously a really, really qualified and experienced physio that worked with, you know, the Springboks, and then your wife being a sports massage therapist. That can always be a good perk to have around. But talk to me about recovery. You have to be on top of your game every day if you're training to be the best. So what do you do for recovery other than, you know, getting a massage and your physio checking out that you're on track, and you know, if you have a niggle here and there?
Yeah, sorry. So the sports doc Conrad, he was with the team.
Oh,
and then Mark, the physio, he was with the EP. He's been with by United Soccer. He does professional golfers as well, so he's super experienced with tons of international experience with different sports codes. So yeah, what did you ask? Sorry, my
recovery.
My weekly recovery. Yeah, so I normally see him at least once a week. As the season gets closer and closer to the higher end of it, so maybe your age group qualifier, the quarterfinals, semifinals, I tend to get better and better in terms of recovery. So I spend a bit more time mobilizing. I'm generally a bit bad mobilizing. I'm actually pretty flexible in most areas. There's some, like thoracic spine, rotational mobility is not great. So that's something I need to work on, and my overhead mobility I would keep working on my ankles. Other than that, the rest of I'm pretty mobile. So I try and spend time on the specifics, things that I need to work on. If I've got any injury concerns, I've had a few little niggles this year, and obviously trying to work around those, and spend some time doing like rehab stuff on that. Wednesdays we generally spend a bit more time on that, on our recovery day, active recovery day, and but daily, obviously you get stuff in daily, try and build it into the warm-up and into, if this, I normally do it more in the warm up than to end, although sometimes I do it to end, just like shoulder scap stability work to maintain good positioning of the shoulders and the stabilizers there, for example, just as a general rehab sort of principle. Keeping my hammies strong. In particular, a while ago, I had to do quite a bit of GHD extension work to help with the hammies, to help prevent my back. I was overextending in the low back and sort of hyperextending when I did lifts, which pinched at the facets and I'd sprain it there. So I did quite a bit of work on maintaining good pelvic alignment. So those things I'd hit in the warm-up preferably, and or with cool downs, and then a bit more specifically on Wednesdays. And I'll do more and more of that as I get closer and closer to the competition to make sure that I don't get injured and fall out, if that makes sense. It's also hard to maintain doing everything through the full year. So as I got 3, 2, 1 months out from the open, I would actually push a little bit harder with that. Each week I see Mark for general work that I might need. I had a bit of a shoulder niggle this year. Had a bit of a biceps impingement problem on the same side. Don't know if that had anything to do with the injury, but we did quite a bit of work there. And then anything that arises, trying to nip it in the butt before it becomes a big problem. Cool. So that's quite a key, and that's helped me a lot. Mark's really helped me a lot over the years. Just keep things in check. Normally I'd kind of leave it, and then it becomes something bad. So that's a big, I mean, we all get niggles. You're pushing your body, especially your top athletes, you're pushing it. Just obviously, we spoke about it earlier, you want to push it to the limits, but you don't want to, if you push too hard and go over those limits, you're going to get injured. But you don't want to hang back too far. You want to kind of get some happy ground. And by doing that, you're always going to be, maybe have a little niggle here, a little niggle there. And you just need to change it and sort it out and make sure it doesn't become a big niggle.
Awesome. Dave, it's a pity we're not going to see you at the games this year. And I believe that the comeback is going to be great. And hopefully next year when you will come back, we will see you on top of the podium and not in second place or third place and then second place. We spoke about that the previous time. So I want to wish you all the best with your recovery, and looking forward to seeing you on the leaderboard next year during the Open. And good luck, because your wife also had a ACL operation. It is an ACL, right? That you said.
Yeah, she tore her ACL in the hockey. She was just sidestepped on the hockey pitch and she slipped, and she tibial plateau fracture, ACL off, meniscus repair, and then a medial patellofemoral ligament was also damaged, but luckily she didn't need to have that surgically repaired. So
you guys are pretty free at home. Yeah. So good luck with that as well. I can imagine it's quite the challenge with only having one arm and her only being, having one leg. I think it must be quite the sports in your house trying to get everything done.
It's quite comical.
I can imagine. So all the best with your recovery, and thanks so much for taking the time again to chat to me, and all the best.